Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am pleased and honored to have Chris Rawley here on the show today, CEO of Harvest Returns. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, Kip. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. Absolutely. Well, maybe let's start with your origin story. Maybe talk a little bit about the story behind founding of your firm, or maybe yourself personally, and then the founding of the firm, and just kind of a little bit about the background and what led up to what you got going today.
Yeah, of course. We'll go way back. My father was an entrepreneur, and so that's kind of where I got the bug to own my own company. As a kid working in his buildings, he was involved in self-storage development back in the 70s in Texas, one of the first guys to do that. And so as a little kid, I was always out there helping him. It was kind of my first job, summer jobs, painting and sweeping and cleaning and weed eating and all the things that you would do to maintain a building as with no skills. So that was my first sort of foray into understanding um, how running a business works. And then I went to Texas A&M for college, and after that, I was commissioned in the Navy. So went completely on the other side, opposite of entrepreneurship, working for the military, and did that actually for quite some time. I was a total of 30 years active in reserve service. So did some time on active duty, worked on a destroyer, deployed in the Persian Gulf, then worked in the Pentagon, and then left active duty, but maintained in the reserves for several years, for over 25 years, about 20 something years, and deployed some more after 9/11, got kind of sucked back in, went to Iraq and Afghanistan. So that is relevant to Harvest Returns. But my first job out of the Navy was working for what's now JLL. Back then it was Jones Lang LaSalle. So I worked in commercial real estate. And so kind of caught the real estate bug then. Eventually started investing in my own real estate projects. Worked for some other companies on the technology side, and as a defense contractor, and then eventually kind of started early forays into entrepreneurship by being a consultant, independent contractor, things like that. But that brings us up to around the mid 2010s, where I got interested after doing real estate investment for a while. I kind of got bored with it. I really like the mechanics of it. I like the way people make money with real estate, but the buildings just didn't, they weren't doing it for me as far as holding my interest, which is because I like to. I'm an outdoors kind of guy, so I was looking at, well, what kind of real estate is outdoors? I traveled a lot, as I mentioned, with the Navy. Went to a lot of places where there was people were very impoverished, and saw that there was the one thing everybody had in common was a connection to farming, especially in those third world countries. And so started thinking about investing in farms instead of real estate. And I moved out to what was then the country, but it's now kind of rapidly developing in suburbs about 10 years ago. And there was a lot of ranches and a lot of people making money or at least doing agriculture, farming, ranching, that sort of thing. So I thought about, how can I invest in a farm? Turns out it wasn't easy. I didn't have a farming background. I went to Texas A&M, but I knew people that were ranchers, grew up on ranches, but that wasn't me. I grew up in the city in Dallas. So started looking at the mechanics of investing in agriculture. And at the same time, there was technology and regulations that were allowing people to invest in real estate just online, kind of just like one might invest in stocks. So brought in a partner, a friend of mine named Austin, and we set up a company called Harvest Returns, and it's essentially a platform for people to invest in farms and ranches and businesses related to farming. And we've been doing that since 2016. Raised quite a bit of money for farmers and ranchers, and same time we work to provide a nice returns for our investors.
No, that's amazing. Thank you. How about just kind of in that space, what are some future trends or opportunities that you're seeing or that you guys are most excited about?
Yeah, so agriculture is really interesting. I mean, a lot of people, the one thing that I think about agriculture is people take it for granted. I mean, most of the U.S. They're urbanized. Most people live in or near or a big city. So we take it for granted that we can go to a grocery store 365 days a year and get fresh produce, just about anything you want. We take it for granted. You can go to a restaurant and order anything off the menu. And because of that, people are disconnected from how food is produced. And so the more we've done this, the more we've gained an appreciation for agriculture, and not only for the farmers that grow it, but the ways they grow it. And we're seeing, more directly to your question, we're seeing a lot of trends in agriculture that are for the positive. And one of those is regenerative agriculture. So this
Mm.
is farming. It's really kind of back to the future sort of farming, back to the past, where everything is organic. People are working to keep the soil healthy, rather than just pouring chemicals on the soil to produce the highest yields of crops they can. They're working with more sort of holistic ways, either grazing or using things called cover crops or no-till, where they're trying to make the soil better, increase biodiversity of the soil, and also make a profit. And that's where our piece comes in. We bring investors in, and we're looking for profitable companies that are doing that. There's indoor agriculture. That's a really interesting one, like hydroponic farms,
Huh.
hydroponic greenhouses. People are growing food where it doesn't normally grow. I think not many people are aware in the United States that most of the leafy greens, the lettuce, kale, whatever that we eat, is all grown in California, Salinas Valley, California, like 70% of it. And
Wow.
so people are starting indoor farms all over the country, and that's so they can grow that lettuce or whatever the products are closer to where it's consumed. And so there's a lot of advantages to that. So we've invested in that. We've invested in a lot of cattle operations, and especially the sort of regenerative kind. And then we also have sort of a venture capital piece to the company where we invest in early stage agriculture technology companies. So these are companies that are using things like AI or um, synthetic biology or natural biology to improve the way food's grown, robotics to reduce labor which is a big one these days, because as there's a labor crunch in agriculture, just like there's a labor crunch in many industries. So people are trying to automate as much of the processes as possible. So these are really interesting, and people see agriculture as very one dimensional, but it's not. It's really it's complicated, and it's dynamic, and it's interesting. You just kind of have to peel back the layers a little bit to understand it.
No, absolutely. We've actually been doing a lot of like executive searches lately around ag tech and
Mhm.
other like international companies coming to the United States to apply a lot of these things. It's super
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, there's definitely a demand in the industry for talented people. So it's great that you're part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. How about maybe along those lines, any strategies or your approach to like retaining high performance leaders within this space? I mean, you talked about you didn't have an ag background and came into it. How do you
Yeah.
look at finding good people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny because probably half of my team has some sort of connection to agriculture and the other half doesn't. I mean,
Huh.
I have finance people that can learn agriculture people that can learn finance and investing. Um, so that's kind of fun. I think it brings a more broad-based approach to solving the problems in our industry, to have a variety of people with a variety of backgrounds. I mean, some of us have military backgrounds. We see the world one way. Others have marketing, finance, and then we have advisors that are very experienced that have you know broad-based in running companies, and but also agriculture and financing agriculture and things like that.
Oh, very good. How about any strategies that prove most effective for identifying, excuse me, identifying and capitalizing on opportunities in the ag space, or like how do you guys approach
Yeah,
opportunities?
it's good. I'm kind of a forward-looking guy, so I'm always looking for the next thing. And the way we do that is sort of study broad areas of the industry. As I said, agriculture is not very is very dynamic, but it is also very tribal. So there's the ranchers, there's the farmers, and that's been like that, not just recently, but for thousands of years. The people, the animal people and the plant people, we're looking at all aspects of it. We're looking at the technology side, we're looking at the conventional side, the organic side. We go to a lot of shows. We have a very broad-based network, and I think that the broader your network can be, the more you can understand an industry, it not just a high level, but at a deeper level.
Oh, very good. How about any biggest challenges you faced while building Harvest?
Yeah, so great question. It's we have a two-sided problem. So we work with farmers and we work with investors. The farmers are very conservative, and in some cases the investors are very conservative too. So that's a great thing. And when I say conservative, I mean in the sense of the word is like they're slow to change to adapt new growing methods, or in the case of ours, new ways to capitalize their farms. So they go, ag finance is a lot about going to the local agriculture credit union that perhaps your father went to, and that system and those banks really haven't changed in probably 60 years. And we're bringing in this new method to finance the farm. So there's an educational aspect on the farming side. And then on the investor side, most investors haven't even considered investing in like a farm or agriculture or the way we do things. And so we have to educate them. So that's bringing those two disparate worlds together is one of our challenge, and it's a constant game of education and making sure everybody's on the same level of understanding.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a million different ways you do this, but how do you typically structure one of these deals with the investors
Yeah,
and the owners?
it depends. So we do a lot of different types of deals. I shouldn't say a lot. There's probably three types of deals we do. It's all private capital. So we have a pool of investors that come in and they invest anywhere between say 10,000 to a couple of $100,000. We pool those investors together, and then we take that basically LLC company we start and we invest in a farm, or we give the farmer a loan, or we do invest in a convertible note if it's an early stage sort of agriculture technology company where it's hard to provide a valuation. So, and then after we do that, that's all via the platform. It's all automated. Of course, there's a lot of non-automation that goes into understanding the deal and putting the deal together. But once that happens, then we keep up. We're invested in the farm for the long term, and we have to keep our investors updated and build that relationship, maintain that relationship with the farmer or the rancher or the company we're invested in, just like any other sort of asset allocator would have to do.
Okay, very good. How about just broader economic impacts, just like what's going on with our economy here locally in the US and globally? How is that impacting
Yeah, I mean,
you
it's
guys?
been in our industry, in the economy in general, but agriculture has been impacted in many of the same ways, in many different ways than other parts of the economy. Say the past, let's go 5 years, right? So, of course, there was COVID. Well, what did COVID do? It screwed up supply chains, and supply chains are critical to agriculture. And then there's inflation. So inflation drove up the cost of diesel fuel, which every producer needs to drive trucks, tractors, harvesters, whatever. It drove up fertilizer costs significantly. That was made worse a couple of years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. So the
Mhm.
2022 fertilizer prices shot up. So that caused a lot of the what we call the input cost into crops to raise way up. So farmers have had challenging times, just like every other business person, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize as farmers, they're business people. Some farmers don't even realize they're business people. They think they're just growing, but yeah, they're business people. And we want to work with farmers that are business people. And then on the investment side, the world changed significantly. The investment world changed significantly about 2 years ago when interest rates went from basically zero on up to what they are now. So that provided a much higher risk-free investment opportunities for people that had cash on the sideline. So where their cash before was earning zero, so they had to find something now they can put in a CD or a T-bill and make close to 5%. And so that's changed the way we look at our investments. That's changed the way that many of our investors approach us. So that's driven some challenges from at the investor acquisition side. And then there's just kind of the economic political uncertainty that
Uh,
especially every 4 years we see that makes things tough if you're trying to forward plan beyond just the election cycle. People are uncertain, so election years can be tough for those reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we talk a lot about like free markets and capitalism on the show here. In what ways has like embracing the free market system or capitalism benefited, your particular business model?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to we're investing in small businesses. So farms are small business. The type of farms we invest in are small businesses. We're not investing generally in like massive, like massive tens of thousands of acres ranches or tens of thousands of acres row crops or strawberry farms or anything like that. We're investing in small businesses. Some of them are just getting started. Others have been around for, you know, a while and they're doing well. And because we're investing in small businesses, we have to embrace capitalism. We have to, it's what drives the economy. We're producing jobs. These companies, they get capital from us, they hire people, um, they sell, they grow, they do research and development. And then of course, they're producing things, they're producing crops, or in the case of the ag tech companies, they're producing technology and selling it to farmers. So I mean, it's great because we're like right in the middle of you know, all that capitalism, all
Uh-huh.
the entrepreneurship and, small businesses are, I think, what drives our economy. It drives a big segment of the economy, right? Drives a lot of jobs, but also drives kind of that entrepreneurial spirit you don't see in the larger companies that have been around for 40, 50, 100 years,
Mhm.
that are just static and staying in business and producing shareholder returns and kind of very risk averse versus the people we work with are risk takers and risk, take that risk to build something terrific.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How about any common misconceptions about capitalism that you've encountered, and how do you address those things?
I mean, you've seen it. We've all seen it. Capitalism evil, or capitalism
Right.
is people. These businesses are gouging consumers. Like as I explained earlier, input costs have gone way up. So
Hmm.
specifically the food, most food now, on average, is about 20% more expensive than it was 4 years ago. So whether you're going to a restaurant or going to a grocery store, almost every single commodity or food is more expensive. And that's not because the farmers are making 20% more money than they were four
Uh-huh.
years ago. It's because it costs at least that much to produce the food and to sell it and to grow it and to move it and transport it, distribute it, all those things that go in, from getting a a cow in the pasture into a hamburger, a package of 1 pound package of hamburger in your grocery store. That's all those prices have gone up. So the cattle prices have gone up, and in some cases, um, there are some cattle ranchers and producers that are doing very well because they've maneuvered around the situation and been able to make benefit from that. Excuse me. And so have our investors. But there's also that perception that people are just out to do this for higher and higher profits is not necessarily accurate, especially in the agriculture industry. And
Uh-huh.
like the other side of the coin is farmers are out there, they're just doing great and they're doing well, but they're losing money. And most farmers are not making a lot of money, but they still keep doing it. Sometimes even when they shouldn't be doing it, but they're doing it because they love it and they want to produce good, healthy food.
Uh-huh. No, absolutely.
So,
How about
sorry
any
about that.
ways that you personally just advocate for capitalism or free markets, even like outside your business activities, just in life?
Yeah, so we volunteer in Texas A&M has it's something called the McFerrin Center. It's a entrepreneurship center. So they hold all kinds of events. They hold a thing for veterans who have business ideas. They hold high school pitch competitions, college college business competitions, and we volunteer there, and it's great to see, um, those ideas and the companies and the energy behind all these startup companies. I invest in as an angel in some startup companies outside of our own firm and our own interests. So that's also fun. I think there's a lot more ways, crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, which is more or less the business we're in, to invest in startup companies now than there was, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah. How about culture and core values? I mean, that's just so core to businesses. How
Mhm.
would you describe the culture within your firm, and how has that contributed to your success?
Yeah, our culture is very much wrapped around integrity. So, the people that we work with, everybody in the company understands that we're entrusted with other people's money, and the last thing we want to do is lose other people's money. And there's obviously things that are out of our control. Sometimes in the companies that we invest in, they have challenges and they have issues, and occasionally, they falter, and we understand that. But it as a baseline business practice, doing what's right and trying to take care of our stakeholders, both on the farming side and the investment side, is kind of key to our culture.
Very good. How about core values? And to the extent you have them, do you have like identified core values that permeate through how you run the business and make your
Yeah,
decisions?
we do. I mean, it's integrity is one of them. The farming is should be profitable for farmers and investors. So, kind of that goes back to working with farmers that understand, business, but also, making sure that our investors are taken care of. Um, Farm production is agriculture is one of the most important industries on earth. It's the one industry that touches every single person because we all have to eat. So,
Absolutely.
just that tie into agriculture is really important for us.
Yeah. How about, I mean, leadership? I mean, obviously with your military background, and thank you for
Yeah,
your service. That's
I appreciate it.
incredible. What's your personal definition of leadership, and maybe how has that evolved over time throughout your military career and your business career?
Well, that's a good question. It definitely evolves. I'll say for me personally, leadership is motivating a team to accomplish goals together that they wouldn't normally accomplish. I guess that's one way to put it, where you're getting everybody on the same page. You put a vision in front of them, and then you unleash them to achieve those goals. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. There's very decentralized ways. There's more hierarchical ways, and but achieving the goal, and making everyone working together to achieve a common goal is kind of the essence in my eyes of leadership, and also bringing out the best of people. So, everybody has weaknesses, everybody has strengths, and so you're maximizing those weaknesses, and or minimizing those weaknesses and maximizing the strengths.
Yeah. How about any example of just like an innovative approach you've taken in leadership or management that's really made a big impact for the business?
Yeah, I don't know. So we were doing remote kind of hybrid work model before that was a thing during COVID. We've been doing
Uh-huh.
that. We've had remote employees way prior to COVID, and we've had, people on different schedules, and we don't do things like, we don't have paid time off. We just people tell us when they're going to take vacation, and we're a small company, so everybody's got multiple hats. So they cover it for each other. So when somebody needs to go on vacation or out of the office for one thing, we've got redundancy even on our small team. And so that, we're trying to build an environment where people have the flexibility to work and grow and contribute, but also, have that family life balance that is hard to get these days sometimes.
Absolutely. How about like servant leadership? What role has servant leadership played in fostering your culture and the success of the business?
Yeah, I think everybody's a leader. So we have people that are, from my age that have been around a while, and our advisors that some of them are a little bit older than I am, down to our fresh out of college or even in college interns. And we want all of them to have the opportunity to lead in some form or fashion. So our our younger staff gets to lead interns.
Mm.
And then so most people, leadership is, I think for some people it really is innate, and others it's not, but it is a skill that can be trained. And so part of that is training, but in order to train somebody, you really have to give them the opportunity and to learn those lessons. And both myself and my partner Austin, based on our military and other leadership experiences, we kind of try to not just set the first thing is setting the example on what we think leadership should look like, but also providing coaching to younger folks that are still developing their leadership skills.
Yeah. How about any particular investment that you guys have made, or maybe one that you guys looked at that was just particularly unique or exciting, or really got you guys fired up? And
Yeah, it's there's a lot of different companies we've invested in, I think 50 something companies. So our portfolio is pretty wide. Some of the companies have done really well. Others have not done well. Investing in early stage companies, especially on the ag tech side, you're always going to have winners and losers and kind of hangers on. One of the great companies we're really excited about is a company called Agrology. We invested, gosh, it's been about four years or so. Those guys, they were really one of the early adopters in what's called precision agriculture. So agriculture, a lot of depth to it, but essentially what it is taking technology and applying it to certain pieces of agronomy or growing things to get better at growing. I didn't explain very well, but so in this particular case, they have sensors. The sensors go on the ground, they go in the field. One of their examples is vineyards. So, California, I think this year and in previous years has a problem with wildfires. And, what happens is that smoke comes across grapes and vineyards, and it creates what's called smoke taint. So it screws up the taste of the wine. So in the past, there'd be a big wildfire, smoke would come across a vineyard, and you'd have to basically ditch all those grapes because they were tainted, right? So now they've got these precision sensors, Agrology does, and they know, okay, this part of the field is great, this part of the field is tainted, this part is, okay, it has certain levels of the smoke taint, and it saves the farmer a lot or the winery and the vineyard a lot of money. They've taken these same sensor technology, and now they can measure moisture, carbon, whatever, sends all the data up into the cloud, and then provides, essentially information for farmers to analyze and get better at growing, produce a higher return on the farmer investment.
that's amazing. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. How about in your military career? Sorry, any particular
Oh,
just
I've
exciting
got all kinds of,
experiences you've had, or just like memory burns, positive ones that were just like,
yeah, I've got all kinds of great experiences in the military, fun memories, just primarily revolving around the people I got to work with.
yeah,
I was very fortunate for about 10 years of my career, kind of middle career through the early 2000s to the 2000 teens, to work with a lot of special operations guys. So
all right,
deployed to Afghanistan with SEALs, deployed to East Africa also with SEALs, did a couple other things, worked at Special Operations Command. So that was really rewarding, because those folks they bring out the best in you, because they're such high performing people, and to be around them, you have to be on your A game. Especially, when you're deployed and people's, life and death is in people's hands. So you have to they make you want to perform better at a higher level, whether that's physically, mentally, uh, focus, all those things. So that was a great experience. And that was, a lot of that rubbed off on me the way I run the company.
oh, very good. How about just building legacy? How are you working to build a lasting legacy through the business, or just the other efforts in life for you?
Yeah, I guess my legacy with this company, we're still very early in the stage of the company. I mean, we've been
Yeah,
around for 8 years, but obviously want the company to grow, to impact as many farmers or investors as we can. So when we're always looking at trying to innovate methods to bring new forms of capital into the agriculture industry, we're working on some revenue-based loans right now that as the debt load of every business or many businesses increases, that can be a challenge and insert risk into an industry. So rather than having farmers, get higher and higher levels of debt that they have to pay interest on, we're looking at things that are investment structures based on revenue. So I think that would be an interesting, if we can introduce that into the entire industry and make it more standard, I think that would be a pretty cool legacy to leave with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, primarily you're adding value to the farms and ranches
Mhm.
through capital. Are there any other ways you guys are trying to add value other than, cash? Or is that primarily what the
That's
farmers and
primarily
ranchers
what we
need?
do, but
Yeah.
we work with the companies we work with, we try to connect them to other resources, whether that's source of capital, on the early stage, the agriculture technology companies, they're growing and sometimes they need additional capital from venture capitalists or whatever. So we're building our network there to help them, or private equity, um, or investment banks, whatever. So we've got, our all of the ag finance is interconnected yet disparate, and so trying to be sort of a connector for those different sources of ag finance is important to us. Um, we also provide them advice. A lot of them are early stage companies. We've been an
Sure.
early stage company. We've kind of passed the startup phase, but having been in their shoes, we know some of the challenges they face. So
Uh-huh.
we're always open for advice. Occasionally, we'll take an advisory board role on some of the portfolio companies, but that's pretty infrequent. But for the most part, we're there if they need us. We want to see them succeed.
Yeah. And are you looking all across the United States, or is there a particular region you're focused in,
Yeah,
or
no,
even
we work
international?
all across the United States.
Okay.
We've even done some international things. We have a company that we did a very successful raise with called Green Gold Farms. They're in Ghana in West Africa. I've got some connections to West Africa from my military days, and
Okay.
they're doing great things. They're working in a very challenging environment and a challenging time and growing. And so we would love to do more international things, connecting investors all over the world with farms all over the world. But that's a challenge at the scale we're at right now.
Yeah. Is it pretty complex to do that international work?
It is, yeah. Taxation, regulation, foreign currency exchange, all those sorts of things can be challenges.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. How about just kind of looking back on your career? I mean, thus far in the business or even in the military career, any decision or action that you've taken that you would say that has been most pivotal or just very pivotal to your success?
Yeah, wow. I can think of several pivotal moments, both good and bad. Um, the hard ones are deciding to start something. I mean,
Mm,
for people that want to start something, whether it's a business, a project, a podcast, whatever it is, you got to take that step. And so I can think of a number of times throughout my career, starting Harvest Returns being one of them. For me, knowing that having done some sort of solo type businesses, investing, real estate projects, consulting, I knew I needed a partner, and so that was probably the key decision to reach out and think about it, and then develop this relationship or deeper relationship with Austin, and bring him on, and we've been together ever since. I know a lot of partnerships struggle. There's a lot of friction, and of course we have friction,
uh-huh.
like any kind of group of people that have been together and working and challenges. But I think we complement each other's skills and weaknesses, and it's been great having him on board.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that Austin has brought to the table that you don't have that has really added
Yeah, I mean,
value?
so Austin grew up, he grew up in Georgia and spent his summers working on his family farms.
Okay.
So he had that experience, that I didn't have, whether that, whatever that was, all those experiences, moving hay around and selling peaches at the farmer's market, all those different experiences that I didn't quite have. He's got a great rapport with farmers that come in. Whereas I kind of take the investor side. Oh, we switch back and forth, but We complement each other in those ways. I'm the idea guy. He's the bring me down to earth guy with realism,
Uh-huh.
providing a little bit of circumspection for the decisions the company makes altogether. So it's been a very complimentary sort of relationship.
Yeah. And you said you guys met in the military together?
No, we actually met via A&M Family Connection many
Okay.
years ago, but he served in the military.
Okay.
I served in the military. We both went to A&M, so we had a lot of things in common that kind of drove us. And then we did a little bit of consulting work together prior to starting Harvest Returns.
Yeah. How about any big memories? I mean, everyone I know that went to A&M like
Yeah.
lives and breathes the Aggies, even like years and years later. Any particular great experience you had while when you were
Yeah,
physically
I mean,
on
the whole thing
campus?
was pretty great. I was in the Corps of Cadets, so we went,
Okay.
that's comes with a lot of interesting aspects. You're in uniform. The first year is very tough, and the last year is amazing and glorious, and it gets better and better as you get to be more of an upperclassman. And Aggie football is a thing that people don't understand unless they've experienced it, unless you've been there at Kyle Field. It's a whole other level, having been to, other stadiums and watched other teams play live. It's a really interesting experience to be at Kyle Field. So that's great. And the Aggie spirit and the Aggie traditions are big. One of the tradition there's a lot of them, but one of the ones we have every year is called muster, and Aggies get together and you remember um, your former students that passed away the previous year. So I get involved. I do that every year. Go to that. There's local A&M clubs all over the country. My club here in Fort Worth is great. We have a great group of young folks that run it and do all kinds of interesting events, from happy hours to the big muster. So yeah, it's a family. It's a little cultish, but A&M is it's a good place. I mean, you've got Aggies on your team, so you kind of know some of those stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I had said before we hopped on, my COOs went to A&M and so did her husband. And
Yeah.
then our other best friends, husband and wife, both went to A&M and I mean, yeah, I mean, A&M football, I mean, that's all, no matter
Yeah.
how good they're doing, like Kevin
Right.
is his name. That's all he talks about during football
Yeah, we
season.
don't, hopefully we'll have the record to live up to the hype and the
Yeah,
energy and the excitement,
I
but
know.
we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And then and A&M did great in basketball this year, men's basketball. That was a lot of fun
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, a lot of basketball, some of the women's sports, a lot of
Uh-huh.
different sports we're great at.
Yeah. How about just kind of down to that? Maybe advice you'd give to young entrepreneurs, people that are aspiring to succeed in today's economic climate.
Yeah, so the first is, like I said, just start. You got to start somewhere, even if it's an idea that you think is crazy. Go get some advice, reach out to people. It's really easy to find mentors these days, I think. Just go to LinkedIn and find somebody
Mhm.
in your industry and send them a LinkedIn message, and they'll probably respond. I think probably, 8 out of 10 times they're going to respond and meet you for coffee or a virtual Zoom, and just have a chat about what you're doing. So take advantage of those resources, but first of all, don't be afraid to start something, even if you're not sure where. If you have an idea, just go for it, and don't let naysayers stop you. Sometimes a bad idea is a bad idea. We've seen that, unfortunately, but sometimes, bad ideas are just misunderstood ideas, and they're really amazing. And that said, a lot of it is execution. So a lot of entrepreneurship is grit and execution. And, if you don't have grit, figure out ways to get grit, put some stress in your life. If you're a young
Uh-huh.
person, a lot of people have been fortunate and have very easy upbringings, and that's great. But if you don't put some personal stress on yourself, whether that's physical or mental, and there's a lot of ways to do that, working out and going outside and exposing yourself in the weather and all these things, sort of crazy things we did in the military. That's a good way to run a marathon, Tough Mudder, there's so many
Uh-huh.
ways to like put stress on yourself, do it. Because if you don't have that grit to kind of push yourself beyond your limits, you're probably not going to be a great entrepreneur.
That's excellent advice. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, pushing yourself beyond your limits and then seeing you can do it, or you
Right.
can fail and come back and keep
Yeah.
going.
And failure is the best teacher. And so don't
Yes.
be afraid to fail because you're gonna fail. We still have failures. I still have failures, and you just got to kind of push past them.
Yeah. No, I think that's excellent too. And I think all these kids have been raised to think to be fear failure. And like failure is good. And
It is.
like you said, no matter how far you get in your career, you're still failing, which is a good
Yeah.
thing. You're failing forward and you're trying different things. And it's so
Yep.
important to just get comfortable with that. Again, if you want to
Hmm.
be an entrepreneur. How about kind of last question, kind of looking into the future, how do you plan to evolve your business strategies to continue, thriving in the landscape
Yeah.
going forward?
You know, yeah, great question. We're always looking for different structures to grow the business to help farmers. So we're going to continue to do that. Like I said, I would like to expand more internationally at some point, and just see how many much capital we can deploy to impact the future of farming. That's kind of what we're all about.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate this. This has been awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah,
everybody
great.
else, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's happy to be here, Kip. Thanks.
Yeah. 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 And everyone, if you like this, if you got value, please share the show. That's how we continue to expand and grow and add value is by sharing the show here. But thank you, Chris. This was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, Kip. Thanks.
All right. You bet.